Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. When she was sworn in December of 2022, our guest today became the first female Los Angeles city attorney, and I'm delighted to welcome her back. Hydee Feldstein Soto, so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Maria. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
So a lot has happened since you became the LA city attorney, and a lot of really great things, by the way. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is one of the goals you had was obviously realized because you received a gold seal from the state bar recognizing your efforts toward D.E.I, and I've also learned that it's now D.B.I, which is pretty cool. What changes did you incorporate into the office that allowed that recognition, and what did that mean for the city attorney's office?
Well, first of all, I'm the only city attorney's office with a gold seal. San Francisco has a silver, San Diego has a bronze. I'm very proud that the Los Angeles city attorney was awarded a gold seal. What changes did I incorporate? A lot of it is just building the values and the visibility and the practice into the DNA of the office. So I now have a leadership team that looks much more like the landscape of Los Angeles. It is a mosaic of the people that we serve. A lot of it is opening up the competitive bidding process to basically, rather than going to the same providers that the city attorney's office has been using for years or even decades, really creating a competitive process where other alternative providers, vendors, experts, lawyers, have an opportunity to compete on a level playing field, and we can select the best qualified for the particular job. And a lot of it is paying attention to what we do in recruitment and in hiring, making sure that we include the schools where students from different communities might choose to attend, making sure that our internship program looks like LA and that we draw from every district and every community. And we've put some thought into that, and we're so happy that the State Bar recognized us. I'm very proud of the achievement. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my DEI team. So Heather Aubrey of my office has headed up a team of individuals who really have focused us on serving the city departments that focus on civil rights and economic empowerment. And she and Nicole Gugis of my office put together the application to the State Bar, and we were awarded the gold seal in June.
Do you think that's actually helped your awareness of the community that you serve by having those, now very close parts of your office have a certain amount of understanding and information and education? Do you think that's actually helped the city attorney's office really understand the community it serves better by having those people in place?
Of course. I mean, it's kind of like when we went out to educate tenants on the new ordinances that affect their rights, just cause and tenant anti-harassment. We did the brochures in 7 languages. We worked with different groups that historically have been close to tenants groups, whether it's a tenants union or it's a group like Ground Game. And we produced brochures in 7 different languages and sent people into the communities that were perhaps most at risk of eviction in order to make sure that we got the information around, creating the ideas as to what the city attorney's office ought to be doing to address the needs of each community is of course informed by having members of my leadership team who either come from those communities or who can easily move in them and gain the trust of the folks we serve.
Wow, okay. Some of the other priorities that you put into place, you got a wonderful grant from the Driving Under the Influence that helped with the Driving Under the Influence of Drugs unit. That grant sort of wrapped up this past fall, but did you notice an impact? Did you understand what that help was?
We have gotten the grant for 12 years.
Oh, I thought it was only for a year.
No, well, yes, each grant is for a year.
Okay.
But we are renewed year over year.
Oh, okay.
And it is partly as a result of the success that our unit has had. So I'm going to look at my notes because I don't know all the statistics by heart, but I will tell you that from 2023 to 2024, my office filed nearly 5,400 cases involving DUI and DUID drivers. So drivers who were under the influence of either alcohol or drugs. The number of DUI arrests increased exponentially last year, but what's more disturbing is that we're seeing an increase in polysubstance abuse behind the wheel. And that creates a very dangerous situation. The most prevalent drug is cannabis or marijuana, but it is more often mixed with higher alcohol concentrations and sometimes with fentanyl or opioids or other drugs that really people should not be behind the wheel. I am really proud of the fact that in each of the last 2 years, since I've been in office, my office has been awarded, or the prosecutors in my unit have been awarded the Prosecutor of the Year award by Mothers Against Drunk Driving, otherwise known as MADD. And so this year it was Deputy City Attorney Benjamin Park, and last year it was Deputy City Attorney Kaylee Epstein, and I'm incredibly proud of those lawyers. I will tell you that especially around the holidays, and it is my second anniversary in office, but it is also the holidays, I welcome the opportunity to remind everyone in our city, if you're going to drink, if you're going to do drugs, don't drive. There's lots of options available to us. I mean, I think I've even seen more driverless cars out there on the streets than I ever expected to.
Right.
Call an Uber, call a friend, call a cab, take a bus, okay, sleep it off. Don't get behind the wheel.
If you're working anywhere in the city of Los Angeles, you cannot get away from the topic of homelessness, because that obviously is a huge crisis, and it continues to be, but there are, a lot of nuanced and a lot of legal issues, and one of the things that your office has been dealing with is encampments and city-owned buildings. Where are we in that realm, right? Where are we in terms of laws about encampments on city and also opportunities for homeless revitalization in city buildings, et cetera?
I will tell you that I think we are exponentially better today than we were 2 years ago, and most of that credit goes to the mayor's office, not so much to my office. I'm reminded of the old shake and bake ad. They did the hard work and we helped. I did start off my first year with putting in place a public health and safety receivership, which was met with elation, skepticism, all kinds of things when we did it. The fact is we just kept doing our job, and as of this year, what has happened in this past year is that we managed to bring all 29 of the buildings to a point of rehabilitation where they were no longer uninhabitable. And we saved 2,000 low-income units in downtown LA. We kept 1,500 people housed, and we have redelivered all 29 buildings back out into private or nonprofit hands, so that they are no longer being funded or held by the city. I'm proud of what we did on Skid Row Housing Trust, and I think that we acted boldly and moved quickly to save lives and to save people staying housed. The other things of significance, we obviously filed a Supreme Court brief in Grants Pass, which was designed to protect the city's regulation of homelessness, 4118, and the Supreme Court has in fact validated the city's practices. Now, no one in this city thinks that sweeping in and of itself is really any kind of solution. Moving people from one street to the next doesn't work. But the ability to be able to put a buffer around our schools, around driveways, around places of worship or places of business, to declare zones free of the issues that come with an encampment is terrifically important in a number of our council districts, and so we've been trying to help with that. The other thing that I'm very excited to report on, we launched a community outreach court. And let me explain what that is. There were years in which the court and the public defender had been trying to get my office to cooperate in having court outside. Individuals who are unhoused don't want to come into a courthouse because they have to leave their belongings outside, and they're worried they're going to get stolen. So we partnered under the leadership of Supervisor Hilda Solis, Mayor Karen Bass, and the then presiding judge Samantha Jessup to bring a court to Skid Row. The public defender's office and the city attorney's office joined hands, and so on the third Thursday of every month, we hold court from 9 to noon at the Refresh spot on Skid Row. And it's a novel program, it's a pilot program, And it's been a tremendous success in its first few months.
Pop-up court.
Yes, exactly.
It's a pop-up court, which makes logical sense because your point about the travel that is necessary for someone to show up to a courthouse and the fear that they have to leave their things behind, and also just the very practical nature of getting there. I mean, pop-up court, it makes perfect sense.
But we also take the opportunity to have providers there. So we offer assistance with housing, we offer assistance with employment. It's not just court to take care of your legal needs. Every time court is held, there are service providers there to help with whatever other needs the population might have.
You brought up Mayor Bass, and when she took office, you didn't really know her well, but you guys have created a very strong relationship. And how has that working relationship helped both of your agendas when it comes to serving the city of Los Angeles?
I think it's critically important for the residents of this city to have a city government that works together, where instead of jockeying for a position, we are leaning in to do the work that needs to get done. And there's nothing better than a city attorney and a mayor and a city council and a controller who all pull in the same direction. We do that in fits and starts, sometimes better and sometimes worse, but I can tell you that Mayor Bass and I have put our oars into the water and we are rowing in the same direction. We are focused on the 80% of the issues that 80% of us agree on and on the most critical needs of our city and our most vulnerable population.
AKA the issues that you just dealt with when it came to some of the legal components of the homelessness. But I do want to back up just a tiny bit and grants pass that.
Yes.
The background of that, because that was not something that happened here in Los Angeles. That was something that was happening outside that actually was going to impact what would. So how would you define grants pass if someone had never heard that particular piece of legislation?
Grants Pass is a city in Oregon.
Correct.
And there's a total of 185 unhoused individuals who the city was taking sweeps and putting people in jail. And the Ninth Circuit said, you can't do that. I understand that. And we actually argued to defend the ruling to the extent of the Eighth Amendment on cruel and unusual punishment should prevent you from jailing someone if you don't have a place to offer them, simply because they have no choice but to sleep on the street. The difficulty is that the language in Grants Pass, the case, the opinion that the Ninth Circuit issued, was so broad that it in effect would have tied the hands of a city like Los Angeles, because there were a piece of it that said you can't ask anyone to clear a sidewalk unless and until you have a bed for everyone. So you can't handle the issues encampment by encampment or tent by tent or personalize it to individual needs. And for a city like Los Angeles, where our unhoused population is 48,000, that would mean that our hands would have been tied and we wouldn't have been able to do anything with respect to where encampments were located. And so I work to defend our law. I work to defend 4118. I don't make the law. My job is to enforce it and defend it.
Speaking of defending, one of your priorities is the security of our children and our youngest members of our population, and you recently won a settlement against a gaming streaming service that were taking advantage of the security and privacy of our youngest members. How was that brought to your attention, and what does that case tell us about our children and what they are doing online? Because it sounded like a really fun game, you know?
The SpongeBob Krusty Cook-Off is what it was called. It was run by Tilting Point Media. We actually brought that case in partnership with our state attorney general, Rob Bonta. And what the application was doing was collecting data on young children and basically bundling it and sharing that personal data with subscribers or advertisers or others, which we contended successfully violated consumer privacy laws and industry guidelines. We did get a settlement, a monetary settlement of $500,000, but that's not the part of the case that excites me. As usual, what I wanted to do was to stop the practice. And so we have an injunction against the collection of that kind of data. And although the injunction only applies to tilting point media by its terms, that precedent sets a very strong precedent to deter others from violating the privacy laws in the same way.
And along those lines, it's an educational awareness opportunity for parents. Having this particular thing tells the parent something.
The game was bypassing parental controls, if you think about it.
Oh.
Because if, in fact, you're controlling what your child can view, and so you limit it to what is designed to be a child's game, it may never have occurred to a parent that the game itself was collecting that kind of personal and private data on their child. And that was the part of it that you're right. I mean, it's a warning shot across the bow of every parent.
I think all of us, no matter, we all have to be, we're all asked now of whether we accept, the cookies that are attached to all of these different sites that allow people to utilize our data for whatever they want. So I think anything that tells us to be a little bit more aware, a little bit more cognizant, even if we're not the caretaker of a small child, because that's where a lot of the problems are happening. That's where a lot of the issues are coming into play with people being taken advantage of with identity theft and things like that. So I'm sure when it comes to a consumer protection, what are some of the things that your office is seeing that needs to be, someone needs to think about?
Well, someone needs to think about as opposed to being illegal.
Correct.
Something I just learned 2 weeks ago. Do you have an Apple phone?
Of course.
The latest upgrade pushed out a recording feature that's part of AI. If you use your Apple phone now, in the upper left corner, there's something that looks like a voice wave, and if you push it, you will be recording the conversation with somebody else. You could take it off your phone, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't stop someone else from recording you, whether or not you have the application on your device. So what we all have to listen for now is there is an audible warning that says, you are now being recorded.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And if you don't want to be recorded, you need to hang up.
And speaking of scary, one of the big things that you have been working diligently against is human trafficking, sex trafficking, especially when it comes to the arena of minors. I guess one of the great things is that there have been a lot of young underage gals rescued from this horrific experience. I guess according to your office, June of this year, that 171 underage girls have been rescued from some form of sex trafficking.
Yes, as of June of this year.
Yes. And how is all that working, and do you get a follow-up on what happens with these young women, and what are some of the efforts that are continuing?
I am incredibly proud of the partnership that we built, and I will tell you that I've already discussed it with D.A. Hochman, and I'm looking forward to incorporating some of what he does into the project. I give all credit to the LAPD, and especially the 77th Street Station, and to the South Bureau Chief, Amada Tingarides, because it's really under their leadership that the hard work has been done. We started in April of 2023, so I had been in office about 4 months, and under the leadership of now Council President Harris Dawson and Mayor Bass, we put together a multi-agency task force. We started off by simple things like putting up the required signage in the motels so that the girls knew who to call if they wanted to escape. We started off with, we offered services, we offered hope, we offered help. And yes, 171 juveniles as of June 2024 said yes to that. And of those children, the youngest was 11.
Oh, that's awful.
We sent out Dear John letters. We put up surveillance cameras, and we would send a letter to the registered owner of a vehicle with a photograph of the man getting out of his car to transact services with a minor. And we would send a letter with the photo saying, Dear registered owner of the vehicle, please take note that we are conducting human trafficking operations against sex trafficking of minors in the Figueroa Corridor. You may want to take that into account as you drive up and down the street. Well, the registered owner was usually the spouse. So I think that was a relatively effective deterrent. Over 1,200 Johns received these letters to the registered owner of their vehicle.
Individuals. These are not repeat letters that went to the same guy
Correct.
10 times. Okay, good.
No, these are all individuals. We have arrested or cited more than 190 pimps and perpetrators. We got a closure of one of the motels in the area that was a crime magnet of violent activity. We had 2 other motels that were closed by a zoning administrator, and we have a 4th motel that is currently under conditions, operating under limited conditions. We have others under investigation. We've also made 40 human trafficking arrests. Those are very hard to make and prove, but these are very serious pimp arrests that we've referred over to the D.E.I. or to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Right. And we're making a difference. If you haven't been on Figueroa Street recently, you should. Yeah. It looks like a different place, and that is really a pleasure. That is something that's tangible progress. I'm hoping to take that geography-based approach to other parts of the city. The Sepulveda track in the Valley, MacArthur Park, there's a strip in Venice. I'm told there's an area along Western. And so if we bring our resources and we target a geography to crime prevention and suppression with assistance to the victims of the trafficking, I think will make a real difference.
So what are the victims offered when they come and say they make that phone call or they reach out?
It's very individualized.
Okay.
I know of at least a couple of the girls who were reunited with their grandmamas,
okay.
but in an area far away from Figueroa Street. And the very first victim that we rescued, who was 14 at the time, she's now, I believe, 15, is doing well, back in school at her grandmother's home. Some of the girls, we work with service providers, groups like Journey Out, the Teen Project, Sister Friends, Children of the Night, the Saving Innocents. I mean, there's a number of providers who really try to help these young girls find a more stable environment.
Right. A little bit ago we were talking about some of the laws that, like you said, you don't write the law, you support the law, et cetera, but when it comes to legislation up in Sacramento, what are some of the things that your office has been involved in?
I got a lesson last year in how Sacramento works or doesn't work.
All right.
My office took up 9 bills. 5 were introduced. They were all good bills. They were all simple bills. I wasn't trying to enact a whole new policy arena. They were fixes in the law, mostly. Of the 5 that were introduced, only 2 made it out of the House of Origin to the second house. And of those 2, neither made it to the governor's desk.
Okay. What did that tell you?
It's a very difficult process in Sacramento. There's a drag on bills, period. And this year, I know, for example, that Sacramento has limited the number of bills that any legislator can introduce. The time frame within which legislators have to basically take their bills on their ideas for change forward is limited. And so if what you're coming with are good ideas that are fixes, that will help law enforcement, that will further public safety, that will protect our cities better, those are not headliner bills most of the time. And so the housekeeping in Sacramento becomes difficult to pursue. I intend to bring some of those public safety bills back. For example, I want to make sure that solicitation of a minor for prostitution in all circumstances is grounds for a search warrant. I want to make sure that our cities, you already can't get punitive damages against a city because we're dealing with taxpayer money. Well, all too often, especially in employment cases or other cases, we get hit with enormous damages for 6 or 8 months of working under a supervisor in an environment that was difficult. And so I'd like to have a reasonableness cap on some of those recoveries. I think that would help the city. I want to address housing, not just from the supply side, build, 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 but also from the demand side, also making sure that the antitrust laws, the lightest form of regulation, which prevents price fixing and prevents gouging, would apply to residential housing. So there's some pretty novel ideas in there, and I think I'd like to try to get them passed once again.
The last thing I really want to ask is about, we have a transition of administration from the federal side, which comes with a lot of potential changes. Where are we with the idea of immigration and being a sanctuary city?
Again, my job is to uphold the laws that our city passes.
Got it.
As I think you know, our city council passed and our mayor signed a sanctuary ordinance. Not to be misunderstood, that sanctuary ordinance does not prevent and could not prevent the federal government and federal agents from operating in any area of California, including our city. So it is not as if we can kick ICE or any federal agent out of our city, even if we wanted to. We don't want to interfere with the federal government. But all we are saying is that, especially in this time of limited resources, when we are down approximately 1,500 police officers, when I am operating with the same number of lawyers that we had more than 10 years ago, and I have 4 times the number of cases, the city is going to prioritize its resources to what the city needs to do to function at our level. And we are not going to be permitted to use city resources to, in effect, do the job for the federal government or make it easier. We believe that the right way to public safety, especially in a city that has as large and as thriving and as contributing an immigrant community as we do, is to make it safe for individuals to come forward to law enforcement, to make it safe for individuals to trust our badge, and to report the crimes that really implicate public safety throughout our city. And people aren't going to do that if they think that they or their spouse or their next door neighbor will wind up
Suffer for it.
deported.
Right. Got a lot more to do. I'm sure you've got a lot of goals and a lot of things that you're looking forward to. So what does the next year look like for your office?
I will tell you that I'm excited for the next year. I'm excited in the sense that I do think that the DA's office and I will be working well together. I'm excited for the public rights branch that I created in my first year to keep doing the good work they're doing. We haven't talked about the fact that we sued to prevent PFAS and permanent chemicals, and we sued Monsanto over Roundup, and we've done all kinds of environmental work. One of my prosecutors, civil prosecutors in the public rights branch, was awarded Wildlife Prosecutor of the Year. I didn't even know that existed, okay, by the Fish and Game Association, because of the matters that we've brought that are quiet, but that really help protect habitat for wildlife. And I hope to keep doing the good work in shutting down party houses, in protecting our consumers from dangerous products. We had a case with baby formula that had poison in it, effectively, and we shut down 6 pharmacies over that. We had a case, well, I think you know this, where we sued the hosting platform for party houses in the Hollywood Hills. And we try to bring the matters that benefit the people of the city of Los Angeles without infringing on the financial matters that would find lawyers in private practice. We work to take the cases that should be brought where there is no money for private solutions.
And if people want to keep up on all of this and find out what the office is doing, what's the best way?
Go to my website. Everything you could need is there. There's a resources tab. There's a place to sign up for our newsletter and subscribe, and I would encourage you to do that. We also have a phone number for our community law corps, CORPS. Happy to report they've solved 2,000 complaints from residents in their first year of operation with very limited resources. So that phone line is 213-978-7878.
Well, thank you so much. It's been really wonderful to have a chance to chat with you again, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.